Get ready to find your recipe for a successful real estate lifestyle from America's top expert here at Greenlight REI with your host, Lance Edwards.
Well, hi, everyone. This is Lance Edwards, and welcome to this session of Greenlight REI, where we teach you the recipe for the successful real estate lifestyle. And, of course, one of those successful real estate lifestyles is keeping all the money you can before it goes to Uncle Sam. And we have today a gentleman that I've actually known, I think it's going on, Quincy, 15 years. He's a colleague. We've done business together. I'm one of his clients as well. We've done real estate business together. And the topic is on self-directed IRAs. And the gentleman's name is Mr. Quincy Long, who I'm going to introduce here in a second. But I will tell you from personal experience and just knowing this gentleman, there is no better authority on the topic of self-directed IRAs and the use of real estate out there, and he'll explain his qualifications in a minute. So let's take a lot of notes on this, because when you're going to walk away, you're going to understand why everybody needs to be having in using an IRA in the real estate business. So with that, let me introduce Mr. Quincy Long. Quincy, welcome to Greenlight REI. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here today, Lance. And
now, well, Quincy, you know yourself. Your credentials, go as long as my leg. But tell everybody your background, because it's a multifaceted background here.
Yes, well, I was running the title company. I had a fee office of American Title. Got a little bored with that, and so an opportunity came along to start Quest IRA, a third-party service provider of self-directed IRAs, and I jumped all over that, and 15, 16 years later, as they say, the rest is history.
So I want to start off, Quincy, and this is a multifaceted topic, just in the topic of IRAs. There's a lot of things here. I'm going to try to hit on what I believe are the most frequently asked questions, but if I miss something, by all means, you're the expert. You please chime in. But let's start off with the basics. So just to get everyone on the same page, what is a self-directed IRA?
Well, that's a great question, because some people will tell you that standard brokerage accounts are self-directed in the sense that you can buy any old stock, bond, or mutual fund you want. But that's not what we mean by self-directed. What we mean is you can buy anything you want that can be properly titled, that is not collectibles or life insurance contracts. As long as it can be held in a titled situation, it's almost certainly available to have in a self-directed IRA. The Internal Revenue Code doesn't tell you what you can do with an IRA. It only tells you what you cannot do. Therefore, everything else is permissible. Common investments include real estate secured notes, unsecured notes if you're nuts, though I don't make any judgments about that. Limited liability companies, limited partnerships, which I'm sure you deal a lot with those too. Corporations that are not not S corps, but C corporations, trusts, a whole bunch of other stuff. It's just amazing the variety of things you can actually own in your IRA, but you need a company like Quest to be able to agree to administer these non-traditional assets.
All right, very good. So let's drill down. So there's different flavors, different varieties of self-directed IRAs. Maybe you could touch upon that. And then let's talk about your recommendations, which I imagine are going to lean towards Roth IRAs. So I'll leave that to you. So just let us know what are all the varieties and what do you recommend?
Yeah, we have 7 varieties of self-directed accounts here at Quest, and that is the traditional IRA. That's of course the one most people understand. You just put the money in and generally get a tax deduction, or that's commonly where former employer plans go to die, if you know what I mean. You leave the employer and your plan can be rolled over into a traditional IRA. That's an important factor if you're looking for money for your deals, to understand that that's where employer plans go, because if you know somebody that has been downsized, either voluntarily or otherwise, that may be a source of funding for your real estate deals. Then you've got, of course, the Roth IRA, which everybody loves because under the right circumstances, you can draw money from it tax-free, and tax-free is a good thing. Then you've got the SEP IRA, the SEP IRA, the simple IRA, which is actually the most complicated form of IRA, ironically. You've got an individual 401k plan if you have self-employment income, but no pesky things like employees. Then you've got the two would you like fries with that accounts, is what we call them, of the health savings account and the Coverdell education savings account. Health savings account is really awesome because you get to deduct the money you put it in it, and yet you pull it out tax-free for a wide variety of medical expenses. So you ask which is the best one to have? Well, whichever the best one to have is the one you qualify for. Obviously, Roth IRA has tremendous benefits, but so does the HSA and the Coverdell Education Savings Account, and so does the Roth 401k. So all of those have benefits, and the key is to qualify for it. And sure, if you can get one of the situations where you pull money out tax-free, that's the best situation of all. Perhaps the king of all kings is the inherited Roth IRA, which you can draw money from at any age without taxes or penalties.
All right, so let's talk about the Roth, because for many years I was just qualifying myself. I was above the income levels. I couldn't get a Roth, but right now anyone, through one way or another, can have a Roth IRA. Is that correct?
Well, that's true, but you could have had it for any number of ways, even when you had high income. But for the last several years, they don't remove the income limits for regular contributions. That's still there. But they did remove the limit for people of higher incomes from doing a Roth conversion. So what a lot of people will do is simply do a contribution to a traditional IRA, which you can do up until you turn age 70 and a half, or the year you turn age 70 and a half. And then they just simply convert it to a Roth IRA, which I've been doing for a number of years.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I just took my traditional, which actually for me came from my former employer, rolled over traditional, and now I've converted over to a Roth to put it to work, so it does grow tax-free and it comes out tax-free. All right, so Quincy, give us some. You've been doing this for so long, you have so many different clients. To help give a context for everyone, what are some, either some basic applications of a Roth IRA in real estate, or maybe also contrast it. What are some novel applications of a Roth IRA in real estate?
Well, the power of a self-directed aid, Lance, is you can do whatever you know best. And so that's what we always say. The most powerful way to use it is to invest in what you know best. So you, for example, would know probably apartment complexes and whatnot better than anything else. And so that's what we would suggest you do it in. They're so flexible that it's hard to answer that question because it really is contextual and it depends on the individual. As I said, people do buy real estate, rental real estate. They buy houses and fix them up and later sell them for a profit. They loan money. Sometimes most of the time the loans are secured by real estate, but sometimes they're secured by something else other than real estate. Sometimes they're just completely unsecured, although really that makes me, kind of sick to my stomach when somebody does that because it's kind of nerve-wracking. But they can co-invest with other accounts and stuff like that by doing an LLC or a trust. I mean, there's a wide variety. We've had people do weird things, like one person bought the rights to a seat in the new Dallas Cowboys stadium for $10,000, and all she got was the right to buy that season tickets every year, and then she sold those tickets through a ticket broker, never was allowed to do the games herself. But it was just a strange investment, but it shows the imagination that people have. Options are really an incredible tool, but people underutilize that, I think. But it's just a wide variety of crazy things.
So you were saying earlier that the IRS doesn't say what you can invest in, it just says what you can't invest in. So what can you not use your IRA, your self-directed IRA to invest in? Is that a shorter list?
Yeah, it's a real short list. You can't buy life insurance contracts or collectibles. So you can't, for example, buy an insurance policy on grandma in your self-directed IRA and wait for her to kick off to boost your Roth. That's not going to work. And similarly, you can't buy collectibles. What's collectibles mean? Well, it means pieces of art. You can't buy that. You can't buy, gold, except for gold bullion. You can't buy coins unless they're U.S. minted coins. You can't buy, believe it or not, you can't buy alcohol in your self-directed IRA. Now, I'm not sure why that is. I guess they just want you to drink it. But pretty much other than collectibles and life insurance contracts, as long as it's administratively feasible to handle it, you can buy that in your self-directed IRA.
All right, so the government, the IRS has given us permission to not pay them taxes.
Isn't that cool?
I guess Congress gave them permission to not pay taxes, which they have not taken back away from us yet. And I suppose they didn't Congress didn't have in mind some of the applications that are being done these days, but it's there legally for us. So you find some of the things, the small few things you can't use your IRA in. But what are the rules? Let's talk about some of the rules of what you can do and can't do with regards to self-dealing, for example.
Sure, absolutely. Because as you point out correctly, there are restrictions on what you can do with the self-directed IRA, and it's not in the investments so much as it is who you can deal with and who you cannot deal with. Remember that an IRA is an individual retirement account. That means it's supposed to be for your retirement, not for your benefit right now. So, for example, the people that you're not allowed to do business with either directly or indirectly in your IRA includes you right now, because you're a fiduciary or a caretaker for Mr. IRA. Mr. IRA may die one time and give you all of its money, but until it's out of Mr. IRA's hands, you're a fiduciary or caretaker from it, and you've got to work to the benefit of the IRA only and not yourself or any other disqualified person. Then you can't deal with your spouse. Your IRA should say, can't deal with your spouse or benefit. Deal with or benefit, either one. Your spouse, your parents and grandparents and lineal ascendants, your children and their spouses and lineal descendants. And you can't deal with a corporation, partnership, trust, or estate that's owned or controlled by any combination of those people. Those are a few of the key designations that you're not allowed to use. There's a whole bunch of them. We could go for an hour just talking about disqualified person. And then when you get the list of people that you can't do business with or benefit, then there's a list of things they can't do. Can't buy or sell or transfer assets between an IRA and a disqualified person. Can't extend credit between an IRA and a disqualified person. You can't provide services or resources between an IRA and a disqualified person. You can't use the IRA in any way that would be a benefit to you indirectly or directly, a benefit to you or any other disqualified person. So, for example, you can't own a beach house in your IRA in Belize and be renting it out and go and stay in there yourself, because you'd be using an asset belonging to your IRA. And you can't even get paid from a third party for a transaction done in your IRA. So, for example, if you're a real estate broker and your IRA buys a property, you would think, well, the seller's paying the commission. That shouldn't be a problem. But nope, it is. Everything's got to go into the IRA. So that gives you a brief summary of the rules.
And every time I've heard you talk about this, Quincy, it really comes down, I think, kind of an arm's length.
Exactly what it is.
Transaction.
The rules are set up. The rules are set up to make sure that all transactions in IRA are done on an arm's length basis, so people don't just dump their money into the IRA. I mean, I would love to have owned and started Quest IRA in my retirement account. I would be really well set if that was true. But that is not permitted. I'm not allowed to provide my services to my IRA or an IRA-owned company. That just doesn't work.
All right, so let's talk about a simple transaction. So I have a contract to purchase a duplex,
okay,
and the price doesn't matter. My IRA is going to put up, and my IRA has a contract. The IRA puts up $100 earnest money, and I want to go out and find a buyer that's going to pay me $20,000 for the contract. Can I go out and actually be the one finding the buyer and have the $20,000 go into my self-directed IRA?
Well, that is a great question, Lance. And, it's a question of, it's not my favorite technique. Let me say that up front. Would we let you do it? Sure, because it's not up to us to decide whether it is something you should do or not. But the truth of the matter is that has an element of risk to it. And what the problem is that you really, the IRA hasn't got any stake in the deal. And what you're really doing is providing the service of basically putting your IRA in a position of meeting somebody who'll buy the asset from you. I mean, you can make an argument that that's okay, but I would argue that doing that repeatedly is more providing services, which, as I mentioned, is one of the prohibited transactions. So I advise a lot of caution in using that technique. The more your IRA has into the deal, the more it looks like a legitimate deal. But there was a case that came down just recently, and I don't remember the name, I'm sorry, but they did something, and it was not quite a flip of a contract like you're talking about. Wholesaling is essentially what you're talking about.
Right.
But the IRA only had $100 in the deal, and the tax court said that's no good. That's really your personal income. So will we do it? Yeah, we'll process the paperwork. Do I think personally it's a great idea? Not to do a whole lot. I mean, you may get away with it once or twice, but clearly if you have 25 contracts and assign 25 contracts and never close on one of them, that's going to look pretty suspicious if they ever look at that. On the other hand, if you go from 100 to 20,000 and you never reach 500,000 or $1 million, they're probably never going to look at it. But it's just something that, remember, your IRA is for investments, not to contribute your services. So you've got to be a little bit cautious and make sure everything looks like, and in fact is, an investment as opposed to a service that you contributed to your IRA.
Okay, so with that in mind, Quincy, so then if the IRA owned the real estate, let's set aside the best way to take title. Let's say the IRA owned the duplex and had a management company that was renting it out, and there was income coming in.
Yeah,
that would fall clearly in the bounds of what the IRS cannot dispute. Is that okay? And then after 12 months, if I chose as the fund manager, my self-directed IRA, I want to now sell this property and get a profit. That profit would roll back to my self-directed IRA. And in the case of a Roth, it'd be tax-free, correct?
Right. It never left your IRA, though. It's important to get that distinction out there. Basically, what happens when you have a self-directed IRA is your IRA exchanges cash for an asset, much like a traditional IRA exchanges cash for a share of mutual fund or a stock. Nothing has ever left your IRA. It doesn't roll back into your IRA. It never left it. Your IRA simply sold an asset for a profit. And so keep that in mind. But yes, IRAs can deal in real estate. And there's a lot of ways to handle small investments where you can grow your dollars. In fact, we have a class that we sometimes give at Quest on how to invest for $10K or less, $10,000 or less. So there are techniques. You can do, as you said, a wholesale deal, though, again, don't do that as frequently and make it look like a business. But you can not only that, but you can do a debt finance deal that has some tax implications, which we'll talk about if you want to. But you can do a seller finance deal. You can take a property subject to a debt. Instead of buying the property, you can buy an option and hold that option long term. And that can work out very well if you have a chance to listen to my option speech, which I gave the other day. That's a powerful technique that most people don't utilize. You can co-invest with other people's money. So you can ride the coattails of another IRA's investment to boost your small account. So there is all kinds of ways to use a small account. It's just you happen to mention what is probably one of the more risky ways to do it, which is wholesaling.
And I think the distinction I'm hearing is it's an investment with the intent to be something more than 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Is that
I have done some stuff that I really think worked out very well, where I've joint ventured within a trust, and that worked out really well, because it is an investment. I invested in a trust, and then the trust produced income, and I shared in that income. Now that is much more secure, if you will, than doing something like flipping it and turning $100 into $20,000 in 2 weeks. That's if they ever looked at it, which again, the chances are small, but if they ever looked at it, they might have say like, wait, we're government officials and we can't do that. How can you do that? So I like, if you're going to do something that boosts your account, I like for you to stay in the deal rather than trying to flip it and get money out of it. Why not co-venture with somebody and stay in the deal? Then it looks much more like an investment because you're not just flipping something and getting money into your account. You're making a co-investment with somebody else and riding their coattails and getting profit.
A JV partner is what you're describing.
Exactly.
Correct? Okay. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So we're still on Roth IRAs. Now there's different flavors of Roth IRAs. I don't know how far you want to go with this, but you've got, hear people talk about, the IRA LLC, and then there's Roth 401k. So let's just stick with one. An IRA LLC, is that something that should be used? Or what are your recommendations with regards to that? And I guess you should describe what it is first.
Well, let's make sure we are talking about the same thing. When people talk about IRA LLCs, what they're really talking about, or checkbook IRAs, as they sometimes call it, what they're really talking about is that it's an IRA-owned LLC where the IRA owner is the manager of the LLC, and therefore you have the checkbook control in theory. That's a pretty crazy thing to do. We don't support it here at Quest, and there's reasons for that. It's a situation where if you're providing services to an entity owned by your IRA, that's the same thing as providing services to the IRA directly, and that's a prohibited transaction. That's one problem with it. Of course, other people are going to point out that, well, these things have been done for a long time, and it's really cool, and it's great to have a checkbook control, and the IRS gave up on this point, but here's what the IRS gave up on: the initial setup. So the initial setup of transferring money to an LLC and transferring money from the LLC back to the IRA, they're right, that's been pretty much given up on, but it's what happens after the transfer and after the company is up and running that causes most of the problem. So for example, I hear stories every day of people who set up one of these things, and because they don't know the rules like we do, not that we give tax, legal, or investment or structuring advice, but we do know the rules, and we are trained to look out at things, and they just do things that are clearly beyond what they should do, and they do prohibited transactions. So that's one problem. Another problem that they have with it, besides no knowledge of the rules and therefore inadvertently destroying their IRA, is that the Internal Revenue Code, Section 408, which is what IRAs are born under, it requires a custodian for the funds. And someday somebody's going to make an argument to say that you can't just substitute an LLC in there and magically have the funds that the IRS didn't want you to get your hands on in the first place. And really the thing is, it's just not a great idea. You can always hire somebody else to be the manager of the LLC.
Okay.
And that solves the problem and doesn't draw the scrutiny of the IRS. I should mention one thing real quickly is that these days we have to, as custodian, we have to report to the IRS the value of any non-cash or non-traditional sources like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. We have to report that you have that in your IRA and the value of those non-traditional assets. And that includes when you do a Roth conversion. So the IRS is busy gathering gathering information that eventually I suspect they will use to target their audits. And LLCs are nicely separated into a different category of their own. So for various reasons, I just can't get comfortable with the idea of the IRA owner being the manager of the LLC, though we will fund IRA-owned LLCs where somebody other than a disqualified person is the manager. That's acceptable.
All right. I understand that. Let's talk about Quest, because Quest is a third-party administrator, and full disclosure, they're my third-party administrator. So you're not the IRA police. What is your role as a third-party administrator?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. What is my role? Well, let's say that you say we're a third-party administrator. It depends on when you're viewing this recording, because as of November 1st, 2018, we are converting to a Texas trust company. So we will be the custodian ourselves in November of 2018. So again, depending on when you view this video, we're either a third-party administrator under Quest IRA Inc., or we've changed our name to Quest Trust Company. So thank you for bringing that up. But what is the role of Quest Trust Company? And that's a great question. So what we do is we provide the service of holding these non-traditional assets and doing the tax reporting for these non-traditional assets for your IRA. We don't provide you with a list of investments. We don't endorse investments or investment providers. We don't provide you any kind of tax, legal, investment, or structuring advice. But we provide a lot of free education, or in the case of the boot camp this past weekend before we were recording this, we had over 500 people at a Quest Expo and had supporting vendors and just a lot of great networking. So we do provide our clients with the opportunity to network and meet other people with self-directed IRAs and get ideas and get investments. But we don't sponsor the investments ourselves or endorse anybody.
But the one thing I guess you do look out for is you want to make sure there's no prohibited transaction.
That's right.
Going on.
Interestingly enough, the Texas Department of Banking required us to add a question at the end of the direction of investment forms to try to detect whether there's a prohibited transaction. So we do try to prevent people from doing prohibited transactions, but honestly, some of them are not very obvious from the paperwork. So we do our best, but we don't. We do our best not to give legal advice, but we do our best to prevent people from doing something that's prohibited to the extent that we have the information or have detected the information to do so.
But again, you don't give investment, legal, or tax advice, correct?
Well, we provide the networking events for people to get that advice and investments from other people.
Perfect. All right, this final area, I don't want to get away without touching upon these. You introduced these up front. You called it, do you want fries with that? And there's a couple of options here with the health savings account and the Coverdale. And I just realized this, health savings account. This is one, especially in the current environment of healthcare costs. Can you talk about that and the benefits of an HSA, Quincy?
Well, I'd love to talk about that. That is, ironically, I know you love Roth IRAs, and so do I, but the HSA is actually the first account I fund every year for myself personally. Why? Because despite being in a high income tax bracket, I can still deduct that money off of my taxes. And then when I pull it out for a qualified medical expense, I get to pull that out tax-free. So that is the best of both worlds, as we call it, and really is the only account that you can do both tax-free contributions and tax-free distributions without being any particular age. You just have to have the right kind of insurance plan, and then you have to have medical expenses, which are really broadly defined, include eyeglasses and doctor's visits and hospital visits, and you might be interested in knowing it even covers psychiatric care, so they're really awesome.
And so an HSA, so for example, where I have a high deductible plan,
right,
with my medical program, I'm always paying out of pocket for stuff. Yeah. I can use I can put money into my HSA that I can deduct, use that to cover my deductible, and that comes out tax-free, correct?
That's right, but that would be the craziest use of it, because that makes sense, because if you think about it, what you're doing, if you just put it in and take it back out, you're effectively paying for your medical care with pre-tax dollars instead of after-tax dollars, and the higher your tax bracket, the better deal that is. But that's not what I use my self-directed HSA for, because I use it as an investment vehicle. So my HSA is worth probably $150,000 at this point, because every year I make the contribution and I make fairly conservative investments in that, because that's kind of one of my plans is to have a nice size HSA where the distributions from the HSA later in my life will cover my medical expenses. So I use it as like a Roth IRA or anything else, as a kind of a savings account, if you will, that is a tax-free savings account. So my HSA owns several notes. It owns a piece of real estate. It owns some assets in trust. And I think it's totally awesome.
And this is a point a lot of people don't realize. So it's a health savings account, but it is still a self-directed account, which you can use for all the same applications we've been talking about. Money goes in tax-free or tax before tax and comes out tax-free. That's a great application. All right, this last one, because a lot of people, they have their kids or their grandkids. Coverdales. Explain the benefits of Coverdales, which you hit me over the head with for years, and I was too thick to take advantage of it. Talk about Coverdales.
Well, even I messed up on that score, Lance, because I have Coverdales for my kids, of course, and one of them's almost done with college, and I still have Coverdale for her. Now what I'm going to do is it has to be distributed to her or her sister or her kids. She doesn't have any yet before age 30, or there are taxes and penalties. But basically, the concept of a CISA, as we call it, a Coverdell Education Savings Account, is that you put the money in after tax, much like you do in a Roth IRA, so you get no tax deduction for putting the money in. But as long as you use it for qualified education expenses, which are broadly defined and includes everything from kindergarten through graduate school before age 30, and includes tutoring and computer equipment under the right circumstances, uniforms if you go to private school, books, tuition, all kinds of stuff that you can buy with, again, the investment income from that. And if you buy it for qualified education expenses, it comes out tax-free. So I'm able to pay my daughter's college tuition with after-tax dollars. So what people do, and this is where I made the mistake too, so I'm confessing on your tape here that I make mistakes also. But what people do is they think, oh, well, that's 18 years from now when I'm, swaddling my nice young baby. They don't think about how much college is going to cost. I thought I had it covered, to be honest with you, till my daughter decided to go to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, one of the most expensive schools in Texas. She said we were filling out some applications. Not that I needed it, but the money is so cheap. I thought, well, we'll borrow in semesters. So I was filling out the application, and my daughter said to me, Daddy, I thought you had enough saved for college. I said, I did for state school. So sometimes, kids don't go with the plan, if you know what I mean. So that's okay. Fortunately, I'm blessed enough to have a good business, and I was able to cover it without borrowing money. But it was a lesson, and I should have. If I'd have really thought about it, Lance, I would have been working the Coverdales as hard as I worked my Roth IRA over the last 18 years. But somehow that was always just a small balance account, and I just didn't pay enough attention. So my message to you parents and grandparents is, whatever you're saving for college, it ain't enough, because it's going to cost way more than you think. So put the money in the Coverdell, work it just like you would a Roth IRA, and give your kids the gift of an education, which is a life-changing event for kids that utilize it. And even if they don't go to college, you can get tutoring for them during undergraduate, in elementary and secondary school. And it can even go down to their kids if they have any by age 30. So it's a wonderful type of account and should be used by every parent and every grandparent who wants to give their kids a gift of education.
Perfect. All right, so everyone, you need an IRA. We have different ones we've been talking about here between the Roths, all the different varieties, the Coverdales, HSAs, all the different flavors of that. And I know no company better than Quest IRA to place it there. And Quincy, you have tremendous educational resources, networking events you've been alluding to here. How does someone avail themselves of Quest, your education? How does someone get involved with Quest IRA?
So obviously the way to get the most benefit out of this is to go to www.questira.com That's QUESTIRA.com. Or if it's after November 1st, 2018, go to questtrustcompany.com. And we have a great website. We've got a good reputation on our website for educational material. You can get the events calendar. We have offices in Houston, Dallas, and Austin. Houston, Dallas, and Austin. I don't know what I said, and in fact, we just opened our location in Austin, a new location. We've had one for years, but now we rented an old bank building basically off of 183, and you'll be able to see the sign for Quest Trust Company going down the highway. So we're real excited about that. And basically go to questira.com, or again, after November 1st, 2018, to questtrustcompany.com. Get on our events page and look at the networking opportunities. We have classes every week in our office, which are live cast on Facebook Live, and they are archived for a period. We have webinars that are pre-recorded that you can listen to, and there's a lot of written material as well. So we do everything to make you an educated client, because we always say the best client for Quest is an educated client, and that's what we try to do for you.
And one of the things, just as a clarification for anyone listening, Quincy, even though your offices are in Texas, of course, you serve clients nationwide, correct?
Yes, we have about 15,000 accounts, and they're from all over the country, literally, because we go all over the country speaking and giving talks and attending people that are putting on shows, want us as a vendor to be there to represent Quest. So we're all over the country all the time. Just about any time you want to look at our event page, we'll be in a different state. I've been in Dallas, I've been in everywhere, all over the country, and my staff goes all over the country too. So yes, we have many clients in all states of the union.
All right, so everyone, take advantage of the Congress has given us permission to stick it to the IRS legally.
That's right.
Take advantage of this before they shut it down. I mean, but huge, and there's, go to Quest's website, the different resources, and I'll post these on the show notes so you have it. But it's tremendous education, tremendous resource. The networking, again, I know no better resource, no better company to put it in than with Quest. And Quincy, this has been huge. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing so much today. I really appreciate it.
Well, again, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your webcast or podcast. Sorry, I said it wrong. So I'll see you at a future event.
Looking forward to it. So for everyone, that's going to wrap up our Greenlight REI, and I look forward to talking to you on a new topic on our next REI. Go to the show notes, get all the free stuff there, and make sure you avail yourself all the resources available at greenlightreinvesting.com. That's greenlightreinvesting.com. You can find this archive, and you can find all the resources and the show notes. Take care, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
You've been listening to The Expert with Lance Edwards. Let us now blatantly and shamelessly bribe you toward creating your own real estate lifestyle by offering you a whole bunch of free stuff. Go to greenlightreinvesting.com and get you some free stuff and this session's show notes.